Since the Google I/O and their introduction of AI search, the whole SEO world's been turned on its head. Everyone is struggling to try and find out how they're going to replace these systems that have been in place for at least 10 or 15 years, so this is all new. Now, AI is a totally new monster. Just to give you a really simple example, I'll try and encapsulate it in the way that we receive the information. We already know that conversationally, that's how we interact with machines, and all the large companies have basically said this is the way we will be interacting with machines. So get used to it, folks. We'll be talking to our computers all the time. We'll be talking to our AI assistants, and they will be very personalized, and they will give us personal information because they have memory. Okay, so let's do a little bit of a history thing. Once upon a time, going back to 1998, 1999, I could register a domain name, I could get it ranked #1 on the search engine because that was the algorithm. It was really simple, and you could bombard it with keywords, haircut, 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 whatever it happened to be. They then moved on, they realised that people are just going to bombard the system with rubbish, so therefore they had to have a better algorithm, and along comes Google that has dominated ever since with their algorithms, and they are still the gold benchmark. Now, the trick is now the algorithm and the way it delivers the information. So this is the major change, okay? So the first thing is you go to Google, you type in what used to be just a 1 or 2 word search, right? And you get your 10 links or whatever with the sponsored links, the whole lot. You then have to click on the information, go through the information, get the information. That's not referring the information to you. That is just no personalization. It is just, it doesn't know who you are. You're just someone that's gone to Google and typed in a question that you want the answer to, and it's just given you links and links and links. It hasn't actually given you any personal response. Now with its AI, it still doesn't give personal responses, but what it does do, it actually changes the way that the information is presented. Now, fast forward to an LLM. And what I mean by an LLM is ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude. Most people now aren't going back to Google. They're on their LLM. Their LLM is getting to know them. It's answering the questions better. It's more personal. It has memory. And what the memory does is it enables it to filter out on your behalf what information you want. Now, if you look at the Facebook model, it's got information on you as well and all your friends, and it's gathered all this information and it knows what you like and you don't like, but not in the way that AI does, because with AI, it can truly analyze. It is an independent intelligence. It's not just an algorithm written that may be harnessing parts of AI. It will get to know you intimately, and this will happen with everybody. So that's the first thing we need to understand, that we will become accustomed to talking to computers. I know people find it hard to believe, but people found it hard to believe that we go from a flip phone to a smartphone, and that little old ladies would be looking at their smartphone, watching movies all day and paying for goods by scanning QR codes. No one thought that would happen. So the next thing that's really important is, okay, so we now know that we need to receive information, but this is where it gets really interesting. And in my last video, I actually showed a couple of examples with a carpet site in Sydney, and the way the LLM, when you do a search, doesn't just give you the answer. It will make recommendations. It will say, I highly recommend you use this company. Now, what's happening is, if you get a recommendation by an LLM about your product, the figures are over 300 times more chance of someone purchasing from you, as opposed to a link that they have to chase themselves to chase up the information. So you do not want to put any barriers in the way for your potential clients to purchase from you. So you must start looking now at how you are going to get found on the various large language models. Now, this is what my system does. And today I will show you some more figures to prove how the system is going and how the system is working. All right, because there's no point me just sitting here talking about what to do. I've got a product. I have got a way to solve the problem, and I'm very proud of it. So let's go down here and we'll have a look at one of the sites that I created. I created 4 or 5 sites, not so much as an experiment, but more of these are areas that I could see would be a good test case to prove if my solution actually works, both in today's money and tomorrow's money. So let's go down here and have a quick look. Okay, so the site down here is Golf Thailand. I thought, okay, well that's a good generic field. And what I did is I created the site, and we can see here by the Google figures, when I first launched the site, which is only about 3 months ago, initially all the pages were found. That's great, but they didn't value the pages. Then we went through where a few pages were valued, and this seems to be the trend along the lines of the way Google changed its system. So it's actually had an algorithmic change. Now, to survive that change is what I was hoping, because this information I believe was valuable, but I needed to prove that Google thought it was valuable. I have now proven that Google thinks it's valuable. We can see here, and look at that jump, right? So the number of pages indexed, even over the last week, has gone from 31 to 184, and this is after the major change. Now, this trend goes across the line. If I go to my Phuket site, which is astonishing, you can see here, I had 500 or 600 pages. They were all found, but then nothing happened. Google changed their system about here, and then it's recognized that the text and the output and my conversational output must be important because it's now ranked it. Now, Phuket is a very hard market to get into. If you're doing keyword SEO, that's a real challenge, like any major city, Bangkok, Sydney, whatever. So this is really encouraging. Now, the other one we can look at is Cha-Am, which again is a smaller, slightly lesser known place next to Hua Hin, but a great example. And we can see here again, about this time, same launch date, everything ticked along, Google changed your algorithm, now they value what's going on with the conversation. So this is really good news. And we can see here, 482 pages indexed. We'll have a look at another one. So this is Khao Lak. Khao Lak again is another fairly well-known tourist place, particularly for Aussies. And we can see here that it dropped off, and then all of a sudden it started to creep back up again. And if we look at Sutherland Sally, which is a one that has actually been consistent, it has actually gone up and down. So what this drove me to do, on the encouraging fact that we're now getting large numbers of pages through the system just with the text-based conversation indexed, I decided to go to level 2, but I didn't want to do that until I actually saw that the system worked across the board. So, exciting news, very exciting news. Time to go to stage B. So, the whole idea was, there's no point me sprouting that I've got a system that is automated and using AI intelligence the same as a human would be. So, the interoperability of the questions being answered are as good as if a human answered them. We have trained the AI assistant. Other AIs, and including Google, obviously value the conversational answer. And we know going forward, it's all about seeding the field. So I have proven that unequivocally across the range that this works. So plan B is AI is multimodal. So imagine an algorithm, right? So SEO in the past, images are massive. It's all about conversation and then also about vision, because you want to see a video, you want to see an image, you want to have that reassurance you're on the right track of what you're doing. So in the past, alt tags describing images, search engines valuing images were all flying blind. AI is multimodal. So for example, if you ask your AI assistant to perform a task for you, to go and find something, it will do that task and it will cut through the noise to find you the truthful answer. And I keep banging on about this, right? If you've got a good business, stay tuned. If you want to increase your business notoriety, the face of your business across the internet using conversation, stick with me. If you're not interested and you're a snake oil and you just want to make a quick buck, forget it. Systems won't work. AI is too clever for that, right? Those days are gone. So what I decided to do was go to the next step and add images to one site, and I'll add them to the rest, and we can see how the journey goes and how these are affecting. And again, my caveat is, I didn't design this just to rank on Google. I designed it because I know in future that is what the LLMs will be looking for, and the reason you need to be found on an LLM is the LLM will recommend your business. And even in today's figures, you've got 300% more chance of getting a sale from a recommendation from an AI. Now, that is only going to increase because as people build up trust with their AI assistant, any recommendation their AI assistant makes will be pretty well uptaken. So this is really crucial. This is a massive change in the way things are done. Okay, so let's go back down and have a look at what I did. All right, so let's use Golf Thailand. So this was Golf Thailand, and you've seen in the past the videos that I've shown explaining my system. When a question is asked, the answer not only comes to the person that asks it, which is really the key. I mean, the whole idea of my system is you have an AI assistant that you can train on your knowledge and it answers all the questions. That is the tool. But as I said in my previous video, the byproduct of that tool is capturing the information and passing it on. So at this point, all these links and all these pages are really set for search engines. They're not set for a person. You're not going to search through here to find the answer. You'll just ask a question, right? So if I go to the answers that people have asked about accommodation, I've made a couple of changes, a couple of very key changes to see how this affects the sites themselves being picked up. So what I've done is I've added images. So that's probably the first big change. Now, I could have done this a long time ago, but I purposely held off because I know that if I put images up, that would slant the figures. So I needed to prove that my text-based system worked, which it does. Now, by adding images, these images actually have alt tags written, and they will actually take you through different parts of the site, depending on what you're asking for, all right? So we'll go back to Font Answered, just as a question here. Now, we can see if I click on a few of these, so let's maybe go to caddy selection. We can see now, how do I choose a good caddy in Thailand? And then there's the answer. This is the H1 and H2 tag, and that is based on the question, okay? So, watch this. I'm actually going to go, I could use voice here, I'll try it. And we will ask, and allow, here we go. How much does a caddy cost if I go to a standard golf course in Bangkok? Okay, so I've asked the question, and Fairway Fon, because I've personalised Fairway Fon, will actually come back with the answer. The cost of a caddy is fairly standard, 300, 400 baht a day. So the end user is getting the answer that they want, which is great, because whatever question they ask, it's trained on the knowledge file. And if we now refresh the page here, right, how do I choose a good caddy? Okay, so it didn't put it into that category. I want to go and see which category it put it into, so I can go into the admin side and we can see here all the questions that have been asked and all the answers that have been given. So it put that into caddy services, okay? So I'll go back here into the page, we'll go to Font Asked, Font Answered, and we'll go to caddy services. Okay, so we can see here now the H1 tag, it's got the category, it's got the question and the answer in the H1, H2 tags. So that means every time someone asks a question, that question is going to a page that's already well ranked and indexed. So therefore, by adding images and updating these H1, H2 tags to be specific, this should really increase both the attention of Google and Bing now, which is fine, but going forward, when an LLM visits the site, and there are hundreds of pages out there with genuine conversational information and now backed up by image, when an LLM visits and sees an image, it doesn't need the alt tags or a description. It can very quickly ascertain whether or not what the page is about and the images that are showing represent the true nature of the question being asked and answered. So you need to remember that. So the other thing, of course, we're jumping in and out of modern idealism and where things are going to go to actual features. So this is the display on a website. Bearing in mind, most people that will be looking at any of your AI assistants will generally be looking on a phone. So if we have a look here on the phone, so there's Fairway Fon. So I'll go into where Font Answered, and we'll go down into the page that we're looking at here, which is caddy services. So we'll go into caddy services on the phone, and we can see there that the answer's been done. And if we scroll down the page, we can see the images are there, we can see the answers are there, mixed up with a couple of images. The page reads really well on the phone, okay? So the combination now of images and clever H1 and H2 tags for the context, and of course the main one is the conversation about your business, will start to pay dividends, but you need to get in early to be able to do this.